So, hello everyone, this is MEENU of AGRAWAL. Now we are moving to the another chapter, that is human reproduction. As you know, humans, they reproduce sexually, and there are two morphic forms of human, isn't it? That they exist in two forms, that is the males and the females. Okay, so we will first today discuss about your males. Okay, so in this human reproduction, which is your part 1, I'm going to deal with male's reproductive system. Okay, so let's move on with male reproductive system. As you know, reproductive system is an interconnected, many organs are there which is together working in the formation of your sperms and in the reproduction. See, remember that there are what? Primary sex organs. Primary sex organs are those organs which produce your gametes, okay, and they also produce your hormones. Okay, so in this case, your primary sex organ is your what? Is your testis. In case of males, it is testis. Okay, testis singular like this we write, and testes if we write, then this is plural. Okay, so both are correct. Okay, so testis secretes your gametes. As you know, what is the gamete that is secreted? That is your sperms. Okay, and it also secretes the male hormone, which is known as what? Which is your testosterone. So we will talk about it as we will move on. Now first, and there are secondary sexual organs. Secondary sexual sex organs are there. So all these organs apart from the testes which you are looking at, we will be talking about these ducts and glands, accessory glands associated with it. All are your what? Secondary sexual organs, and they are equally important, because without that this process can't be completed. Okay, so they help in that process. So therefore it is called as secondary sexual organs. Okay, so let's look at the various organs of male reproductive system. This is your what? This is your male reproductive system. Okay, so let's look at the different parts of the male reproductive system. As you can see here, and you must have noticed also that the testis is located in a bag like structure, and it is what? Extra abdominal. It's outside your abdomen. Okay, which is in a sac like structure which we call as scrotum. Okay, now you can see here the testis is there. Okay, a pair of testis is there, right and left testis. Okay, now what do you find? That from the testes, we will look at the section of the testes later on. uh, there is a tube like structure, okay, which is moving upwards. Okay, this is called your vas deferens. Okay, this pipe like structure which is taking the sperms from the testes is called as vas deferens. Okay, so if you look at the vas deferens, then what is happening? That now vas deferens moves now. See, it's built now, just it's going over your bladder. Okay, so just loops over your bladder. Okay, and then it comes here, and here it is joining your what? You can see here, this is your what? Seminal vesicle. This is another gland which is a paired gland. On both the sides you will see it. Okay, and then it loops it over and it comes, and here is your seminal duct. Okay, and here is your, this is your what? Now this duct is coming here, from here, this vas deferens, it's coming from the back of it, as you can see here. Now this is called as your what? Ejaculatory duct, where it is now you can see this is your urethra. Okay, which is, this is your bladder, this part is your bladder, as you can see, this is your urethra. Okay, now this ejaculatory duct passes through this prostate gland. Okay, so this is your prostate gland, and it passes through it, it joins with that urethra portion. Okay, and here your prostate gland also pours its content, and then this tube further moves, And you can see here there is another gland which we call as bulbourethral gland. I'm just naming it, we will see its function later on. And they also give their contents into it. And then your semen, the component that comes out from the penis, is your what? It is called as semen. What do we call it? We call it as semen. So semen consists of many fluid which is secreted by these glands and your spots. Okay, so that is called as semen. So one thing you can see here, that in case of males there is only single opening, okay, through which both urine as well as their semen comes out. Okay, so therefore their duct is known as what do we call them? We call them as urogenital duct, or we call it as urogenital system. Okay, urogenital duct. Okay, so through this duct, now this duct is now taking out, urethra is taking out, you can see here urethra is there, which is taking out both your what? Semen as well as your urine. Okay, so this is about your male reproductive organs. Okay, now we will come towards your so what are the major glands you can note down? These are your what? This is your seminal vesicle. Okay, this is your prostate gland, and many males, they suffer from prostate problem, in later part of the age, and bulbourethral gland. Okay, so we can see that these are the major three glands associated with it, which are your secondary sex organs, and all these vast difference, all these gland ducts, which is further moving on. We will see epididymis here also, as we will see move on. Okay, so these are all the parts of your what? Male reproductive system. Now if you look at, this is the figure which is showing you what? It is showing you the section. Okay, so now it is the LS section, not the transverse section. It is the LS section of your this testis. Okay, so it has been cut like this, and what has happened, you can see here, this is the scrotum. Okay, the outer part is your scrotum. Okay, now we will look at, now one thing before I move on, I must tell you that when the whether it's a male or a female starts producing these gametes, so when do they produce? So that age is called as puberty. Okay, when they start producing these gametes and producing these sex hormones. So at puberty, whether it's a male or a female, so pubertal age for a girl is basically, girls it is around your 10 to 14, and your boys it is what? 12 to 20. Okay, and at the age of 18 or 20, we say that one becomes sexually mature. Okay, because all the secondary sex organs have now developed. So like in males and females, you find distinct secondary sexual organs are there. Like in females there is development of breast, in males you will find the development of mustaches, beard, Adam's apple, so many hoarseness of voice, masculine, the more male like appearance, it becomes masculine, muscular growth ho jata hai. So all kind of features that we find, these are called as secondary sexual characters, and they develop, okay, at this time. Okay, so that is the period where these hormones become active, and they humans starts producing their gametes. Okay, now we are talking about this is your scrotal sac. Okay, now in the scrotum sac, you can see here, this is your testis. Okay, so the outer wall of the testis is called as what? Tunica Albigenia. Okay, and what do we see, that now this testis is divided into what? Into your locules. So as you can see here, it is divided into locules. Okay, one locule, two locule, like this it is divided, and inside, and they are separated. These locules are separated by what? By your septum. You can see here, they are separated by this septum. Okay, So they are separated by the septum, and inside the locule you can see these tube-like structures. Okay, these tube-like structures are called your what? Seminiferous tubules. So what do we call them? We call them as seminiferous tubules. Okay. Now moving on further, what do we see here? Uh, now if you see these seminiferous tubules, they are what? As you can see here, these seminiferous tubules are further joining together. Okay, so this region where these tubes are coming together and forming this region, let me show you, highlight that region. Okay, you can see these smaller pipes which are coming, we call them as what? We call them as tubulus rectus. What do we call them as? We call them as what? Tubulus rectus. Okay, these small tubes which join and sorry, these are the small tubes. Okay, yeah, these are the small tubes which you can see. Okay, so they are coming and they are joining, and they join with, they form a net like structure further, which we call as what? We call it as rete testis. This structure is called as what? Rete testis. Okay, so this is your rete testis. Now what is happening is here that you can see further this rete testis. Now it's getting, now these tubes are forming inside it, and now this portion is called as what? This is having your tubes further, which is called as epididymis. Now fine, they form, the entire is one which is coiling into, and we are calling it as what? Epididymis, this portion. Okay, and here what do we find? There are the different parts of the epididymis. That is, this is the head part of the epididymis, and this is the tail part of the epididymis. And from the epididymis you can see what is arising, which is going up, which is your vas deferens. Okay, and the connection which your scrotum is forming with your abdominal cavity, that is called as spermatic cord. Okay, now this spermatic cord has got, this is your, it runs in a canal which is called as inguinal canal. We call that canal as so the canal which connects your now testis with your abdomen, that is called as inguinal, inguinal canal. Okay, now if you look at that canal, you must have seen in the diagram there were blood testes, blood vessels, nerves in it running to supply blood and nerves to your testes. And at times you find that what happens, that testes in certain individuals, it doesn't descend into your scrotum. It remains where? It remains in the abdomen. Okay, so it leads into a condition which we call as cryptorchidism. Okay, we call it as cryptorchidism, and in this condition the person remains sterile. Okay, now this inguinal canal is there, and after that we see that your sperms are formed in your testes. So therefore your testis is where? Is in the scrotum. Why in the scrotum? Because it requires lesser temperature, around 2 to 4 degree temperature lesser from your body temperature. Okay, therefore so that sperms can be formed. So that's why it's located in where? In the scrotum. Okay, now you know the term spermatogenesis. So spermatogenesis is what? It's the process by which the formation of sperms takes place. Formation of sperms takes place. Okay, so sperms are formed by this process. Let's look into now. This is your spermatogenesis. Okay, so spermatogenesis. Now you know that in males they reproduce throughout their life. Okay, so what is happening in them? These cells, spermatogonial cells, we call them as spermatogonial cells, uh, they keep on dividing by the process of mitosis. So these spermatogonial cells, if you see, they keep on dividing by spermatosis, as you can see here. And I will just highlight it for you. It is just dividing. Okay, so the number of chromosomes here, they remain what? Uh, Number of chromosomes remain here 2n. Okay, and as they keep on dividing, therefore they are able to reproduce throughout their life. Now what happens, these spermatogonial cells, they become bigger in size, they mature, and they form what? They form your primary spermatocytes. Okay, now these primary spermatocytes undergo what? First meiotic division. Okay, and then it gives rise to your what is happening in first meiotic division? I must reiterate that to you people. Here is what? Homologous chromosomes are separating. As you can see, homologous chromosomes are separating. So it gives rise to your what? Secondary spermatocytes. It gives rise to your secondary spermatocytes. Okay, now the chromosome number has reduced. As you can see here, the chromosome number was 2 and now it has become n. So in these two cells it has become n. Now further this process will be what? Meiosis 2, which is exactly like mitosis. Here what is happening? Your chromatids are separating. Okay, so sister chromatids are separating here in this case. As a result, you are getting 4 cells, and now we call them as what? We call them as spermatids. We call them as spermatids, each with n number of chromosome. Each with n number of chromosome. Okay, so this is what do we find. Okay, and then they undergo a differentiation. Okay, a change in their structure. The spermatids change into sperm cells. Okay, and or we call them as spermatozoa. And this process by which they change from spermatids to spermatozoa or sperm cells is called as what? It is called as spermiogenesis. What do we call this process as? We call it as spermiogenesis. Okay, this is called as spermiogenesis. Here what is happening? There is change taking place from circular. It is now taking, it is forming what? Head, neck, tail. Okay, so now you can see that spermatids, now spermatids are transformed, okay, into your spermatozoa by the process called as spermiogenesis. Okay, now now we can see here that what? How the changes has taken place into the sperm. It has formed the head, and this is the acrosomal tip. Okay, this is the acrosome which is derived from your Golgi body. Okay, Golgi body, and it is rich in what? In your hydrolytic enzymes, which digest, now will digest your ovum wall. Okay, now you can see here, this is the nucleus, and very little part of cytoplasm is there. Mostly it is covered by the nucleus. Okay, and this is the part of the neck, and this is the middle piece, which is rich in what? It is rich in your mitochondria. As you can see here, this is rich in mitochondria because it requires a lot of energy for swimming. Okay, and tail helps in swimming, and this is the centriole, which is forming the axoneme part. Okay, now moving on with this further, what is happening? You can see here that in spermatogenesis we will also see that there is also a release of the, after spermatogenesis, what is happening? The sperms are being released from your seminiferous tubules, and that process of release of seminiferous tubule sperms from the seminiferous tubule is called as what? It is called as spermiation. What do we call it as? We call it as spermiation, that is release. Anna? Release of sperms from they are jointed to the head of the Sertoli cells. We will look at the structure of that also, and then we will see. Okay, we will see the section of the seminiferous tubule now, and fine. And there is another term. See, when your sperms are released, from your this uh, moves into the urethra. Okay, now that is called as emission. That term is called as emission. That is when the sperms move into the urethra. That is called as when sperms are moving into urethra. That is called as emission. Okay, and the term is used called as ejaculation, which is now when the sperms is forced out of the urethra and the penis. Then that is called as what? Ejaculation. And they both are stimulated by your sympathetic neurons. Later you will read about them. But remember that ejaculation is what? Is the forceful emission of your the semen from your urethra and penis. Okay, so this is a forceful act. Okay, forceful release of sperm from urethra and penis. Then it is called as what? It is called as ejaculation. Otherwise, simple really is a release of sperms from into urethra is called as emission. Okay. Now moving on, we will look at the section of the. Okay, so in the next video, we will look at the structure of seminiferous tubule. Okay, ferrous tubules, and we will look at the various ducts and glands associated with it. Okay, and we will look at the hormones also, which are involved in your spermatogenesis. That will be your part 2. Okay, with this, goodbye and God bless you.